Okay guys, we are going to start with vertex form of a quadratic, and let me move my computer over. So what we're first going to talk about is the standard form of a quadratic, which you guys are all familiar with, is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, now we're going to introduce the vertex form of a quadratic function. Okay, so again, we're going to have an a. So same a value, that a value will always stay the same. Same a value, whatever that a value is, it will stay the same. So no need to stress there. Now, this is where it gets different. Minus h, x value of the vertex, and then plus k. And k is the y value of our vertex. Okay, so remember that our vertex, we talked about vertex form. Vertex is simply h k, right? It's h comma k. And then again, guys, right here, you're seeing f of x, and you might be panicking again. But again, don't panic. F and x and y are the same. F of x and Annie and y are the same. Okay, so don't freak out when you see that f of x. It's just y. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do, you'll see I have it broken down into 3 steps, is find the vertex of the quadratic. And we went over that about 2 weeks ago. So find the vertex of the quadratic. And if you guys remember, that formula was h equals negative b over 2 times whatever our a value is. And then to find our k, we plug our h value in. Plug our h value into the equation for x. And solve for y. Okay, plug h value into the equation for x and solve for y. So let's go ahead and give it a shot here. We're going to identify our a, and our a in this case is 2. Our b is 8. And our c is negative 1. Okay, so we're going to find our x value of our vertex, our h. We're going to say h equals negative, hold on, give me a sec, negative 8 over 2 times our a value, which is 2. Right, we'll simplify that down, and we'll get negative 8 over 4, which means that h equals negative 2. All right, h equals negative 2. Now we're going to take this 2 and plug it in to our function and solve for k. So k equals, k is purple. K equals 2 times negative 2 squared. Ooh, a negative 2 squared. Pay special attention there. Plus 8 times negative 2 minus 1. Right, I'm going to simplify a little, and I'm going to get 2 times 4 plus 8 times negative 2 minus 1, which should be 8, minus 16 minus 1, which would tell me that k equals, sorry, back to purple, k equals negative 9. Okay, so we have our h and our k, right? Now, the next step that we want to do is we want to identify our a value. So if we look at our original equation, we'll see that our a value is 2. So we'll simply say a equals 2. And that brings us to our third and final step. We're going to plug plug A, H, and K into vertex form. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug it in. And I'm going to color code the first one. So I'm going to say f of x, and remember it's my a value, which I know is 2, equals 2. Oops, forgot my equal sign. Equals 2, parentheses, x, minus, and oh, it was a negative 2, so negative 2, parentheses, squared, right? Looking back at that, squared, plus, and then my k value is a negative 9. All right, well, now I'm going to simplify that because I see, oh gosh, I've got 2 negatives here, and then I have a plus negative, so I can rewrite it, which is going to be f of x equals 2 x plus 2 squared minus 9. And that would be my vertex form right there. It seems like a lot, but you'll get the hang of it, and it's not so bad. As long as you know how to find your vertex, you should be fine. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and identify our A, B, and C. If you want to pause me and try this one on your own, go right ahead. So A equals negative 3. B equals 12. And C equals 5. So I'm going to start by finding my H, right? Find the vertex of the quadratic. So H equals negative 12 over 2 times our A value, which was negative 3. All right, which that becomes negative 12 over negative 6. And remember, 2 negatives make a positive. So 12 divided by 6, H equals 2. Okay, now we're going to find our K. So K equals negative 3 times 2 squared plus 12 times 2 plus 5. All right, we're going to simplify that. We're going to say negative 3 times 4 plus 24 plus 5. All right, and then we're going to get negative 12 plus 24 plus 5, and we will get K equals 17. Okay, so we have our H and we have our K. Now we're going to write it in vertex form. So f of x equals, we'll take our A term, which we know is negative 3, negative 3 x minus, and our 2 was positive, so just minus 2, close your parentheses, square it, and then plus our y value, or our k value, which is 17. All right, and then I'm just going to simplify anything that I can. F of x, there's nothing really to simplify, equals negative 3, x minus 2 squared plus 17. And voila, you're done. Okay, so next one, again, we're going to keep plugging along here. So we have a equals negative 5, b equals negative 20, and c equals negative 26. We're going to go ahead and solve for h. So h equals negative over 2, and that's a negative 20 over 2, and our a is going to be a negative 5. Well, don't forget 2 negatives side by side. That makes this a positive 20. So we end up with 20 over negative 10, and h equals negative 2. Okay, now we're going to plug that in for k. So k equals negative 5 times negative 2 squared. Just keep in mind that's another negative squared. Minus 20 times negative 2 minus 26. All right, so we will end up and get negative 5 times 4 minus 20 times negative 2 minus 26. All right, so negative 20 plus 40 minus 26. And we will get k equals negative 6. So now we're going to take these two pieces of information and plug it into our standard form. Our vertex form. So we're going to say that f of x equals negative 5 parentheses x minus negative 2 plus negative 6. Well, there are things that we can simplify and change signs a bit. So we're going to write our final answer as f of x equals negative 5 parentheses x plus 2, right? These two negatives become a positive, squared minus 6. And that will be our answer simplified. Okay, one last thing I want to point out about the quadratic is, the standard form. Given a quadratic in vertex form, this is like an example question. So, given a quadratic in vertex form, state the vertex. All right, so here's my first one. I'm going to go ahead and say that f of x equals 3 parentheses x minus 4 squared plus 5. So remember, this minus 4, that represents my h, And this plus 5, that represents my k. So your vertex is actually going to be 4, a positive 4, and a 5. Okay, so let's try a different one here. I'll explain why that became opposite in a second. Instead of negative 4, it's a positive 4. Okay, so let's say we had this one. F of x equals negative 2 x plus 1 squared minus 8. Well, this is your h, and this is your k, and your vertex would be a negative 1 and a negative 8. So what I'm hoping that you guys can notice here is that your h values, they're always the opposite sign of whatever the value is in the function. So if it's a negative 4, it's a positive 4. If it's a positive 1, then it's a negative 1. That's only for your h values. So the h value is always the opposite I forgot a P, opposite sign of the value in the function. Okay, so remember that. And that's it for vertex form. So just make sure you're really good at finding your vertex, and then the rest should just fall into place. All right, bye guys. Come to office hours, email with questions. We can set up a private little help group if you need it. Okay, bye.